Good evening. I'd like to call the Government Operations Committee to order. Can I please have a roll call?
Lencioni.
Yeah.
Gem.
Here.
Petrilla.
Here.
Wirbal.
Here.
Hessner.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Folkaitis.
Here.
Folks.
Here.
Bungard.
Here.
Munz. Here.
Okay. First up is the omnibus vote. I'd like to remove item 7A from the omnibus vote for discussion. So with that, can I please have a motion and a second?
So move. Second.
Moved by Wirbal, seconded by Petrilla. Roll call, please.
Lencioni.
Yes.
Gem.
Yes.
Petrilla.
Yes.
Wirbal.
Yes.
Hessner.
Yes.
Folkaitis.
Yes.
Folks.
Yes.
Bungard.
Yes.
Munz. Yes.
All right. First up, we have Bill Hanna from Finance Department. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda tonight is approval of the funding agreement with the St. Charles History Museum. The museum made its annual funding presentation to the Government Operations Committee meeting on February 5th. At that meeting, the History Museum requested an increase in their annual funding from $50,000 to $60,000. Staff was directed to include that in the budget that was just approved. Tonight is the approval of the actual funding agreement between the city and the St. Charles History Museum. All other items in the agreement remain the same as last year.
Any questions? No? I got a motion.
Second.
Approval by Bongard, seconded by Wirbal. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. That motion carries. Next up, we have item 5B. Derek Conley, you have the floor.
Yep, this is very similar to the item that was just approved. This is the recommendation to approve a service agreement with the St. Charles Business Alliance in the amount of $798,600. The agreement itself is substantially the same that has been approved in past years. This would be the 6th year of the agreement. The only difference is the increase in the amount. There was an increase of $100,000. This was included in the funding presentation, which occurred the same day, February 5th, and that is what's reflected in this agreement, and staff recommends approval.
Wonderful. Questions?
Move for approval.
Any questions? Okay. Motion by Bongard, seconded by Gem. Roll call, please.
Lencioni. Gem.
Yes.
Petrilla.
Yes.
Wirbal.
Yes.
Hessner.
Yes.
Folkaitis.
Yes.
Folks.
Yes.
Bungard.
Yes.
Munz. Yes.
That carries. Next up, item 7A. Is Chief Keegan still here? Okay, sorry, Chief. You're over there. You're over there.
So item 7A, taken off the omnibus vote, is a recommendation to approve street closure for the annual farmers market from June through October. This is an annual event that's taken place for many years. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions?
Yeah, so I'm just curious. I love this farmers markets, but I'm curious, would they be interested in trying out the First Street Plaza as an alternative location in the future? Is that something we can ask them if they have any interest? If they try it, if it doesn't work, fine, stay where they're at, or maybe they're happy where they are and they don't want to try it. But I'm just curious if there's any interest in that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think they, in years past, have done this adjacent to their church property, but we can surely ask. Obviously, we didn't offer that this year with the construction still taking place.
Chief Kagan, I'm going to just insert a comment real quick. We are working on finalizing a policy regarding usage of the First Street Plaza, and because we're still in the process of that, we thought it was a little premature to approach them that direction. Just making sure that we have usable space and the council direction on the usage of that space is appropriate for that. So it's discussions that we will continue having once that policy is finalized.
Okay, thank you.
Looking for a motion.
Move for approval.
Moved by Munn, seconded by Gem. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next up, we have item 7B. Chief Keegan, you have the floor.
Sure, thank you. So this is a recommendation to amend City Ordinance Title V Business Licenses and Regulations by adding Chapter 5.56 ice cream vending machines to the St. Charles Municipal Code. So a concern was brought forward to the police department concerning the conduct and the appearance of an ice cream truck. I reviewed our ordinance along with Mr. Peppers. We sent out a survey via the police department to local municipalities just to kind of gauge what others do as far as the regulation of ice cream vendors. This ordinance is substantially similar to what we've done with door-to-door solicitors and our carnival workers. Obviously, ice cream vendors like carnival workers and even door-to-door solicitors, have a propensity to have contact with children. We want to make sure we vet that appropriately. So some of the provisions that we've included in the ordinance for your consideration is an application process, a police department background to include a driver's license check, insurance on the vehicle in question, and then a criminal history check to ensure compliance. We will also inspect the vehicles, similar to how we do that for our tow trucks now. A photo ID will be issued, similar to what we do with our door-to-door solicitors. We'll ensure they have a health department license or permit through the health department both in Kane and DuPage County. And then certain provisions of the ordinance include street prohibitions, hours of operation 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., prohibited from pedaling on the left side or the driver's side, and then prohibited from music playing while driving. So with that, I have some background on this. My former municipality also had the same ordinance. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I have a question about the playing music, because I remember as a kid, growing up in the Davis neighborhood, you hear the music and that's how you know that you run. So you can't play music while you're driving? I don't understand that.
We allow the tones,
okay.
But the music sometimes, kids will dart out in the street, and that's really to protect everybody's safety. So the tones will be allowed to play, similar to what you probably remember as a kid,
okay,
but not music.
Okay, so just not playing music, but you hear the ice cream truck band. Okay, perfect. Go ahead, David.
I'm not opposed, obviously, to this, Chief. I appreciate your team's work on this. I was just, in the memo, it mentions, there were a couple of requests from residents. I think you touched upon it. So we're, not to get into too many details, basically there were there's a couple incidents with a couple of, I'm just curious what the etymology of this whole thing was.
There was actually just one this year, and then once I started doing an inquiry with my staff that predates my tenure, I come to find out that there was complaints in the past that predated me. So this was the first one brought to my attention, and it really wasn't the conduct of the driver; it was the appearance of the ice cream vehicle. It kind of rose some questions as far as should
the health of it and stuff.
The appearance of it. And that's where I think the inspection comes into play to make sure that it's operating in a safe manner.
Right.
And it's just really an extra vetting process to ensure everyone's safety.
Right. And I think it's prudent. I'm just curious too. Do we do similar checks to our food trucks and things? Because not that kids are necessarily going to a pizza. Well, you never know, a pizza food truck or something. Do we do similar things?
Our licensing is the scope of it is somewhat, I wouldn't say limited, but obviously our alcohol, tobacco, massage, gaming, carnival workers, door-to-door solicitors, ice cream vendors, tow trucks. There's certain. I don't believe food trucks is actually licensed, but there is some past experiences we've had with the ones I've mentioned.
Yeah, I can speak to the food truck question. Right now, under the municipal code in the zoning chapter, food trucks are only permitted to be located really at businesses, properties, or special events. So the food truck is essentially hosted either by the property owner or the business, or as part of the events approval. So they're not able to operate independently on streets or selling on public property otherwise, unless they're hosted by a business or a property.
Go ahead, Ron.
Thank you.
So I understand the need for this, and it kind of makes sense when you're dealing with kids and things of that nature. But one thing and my colleague kind of brought up was food trucks, and it would be maybe wise to apply some of these parameters to food trucks, perhaps the health certificate, a permit, to know how often they're going to establishments, so we can have some sort of tracking. Because we don't really know how often they're going to a private business, do we? Do we have any way to really gauge that?
We don't currently have any tracking of food trucks.
So it's basically an honor system. We're hoping it isn't 7 days a week that they got a permanent kitchen. So I'm fine with this. I would like, if everyone's maybe just look into some verbiage on a permit process, so it makes it easier for staff from an enforcement point of view, and maybe from a health certificate point of view, so that we know they're in good standing, because they are operating in St. Charles. But just some of my thoughts on that. So.
Go ahead, Ron.
Thank you. I support the ordinance. My question is, maybe for the public, how is a person going to know that that truck is licensed from the city from a distance?
They wouldn't from a distance, Mr. Socrates, but if there was any sales that took place or they approached the ice cream vendor, we would permit or license that driver, the entire staff of whatever operation is in place with a photo ID issued from the city.
Right, but would there be something on the truck?
We didn't entertain that, but that's something obviously we could look at if you
I mean, that
deem
way people
appropriate.
know, okay, this person is licensed in St. Charles. I mean, that's just suggesting that because I think it might help. We're having the ordinance, but people aren't going to know until they actually right in front of the guy who hopefully has a badge allowing him.
Sure.
But if you're going up to the truck, you have no way of knowing.
Understand, and if that's the direction that the council would like to proceed, and I can surely take a look at that.
Yeah, I would second that. Actually, that's the only mobile business that we would have when we require licensure. I absolutely think that we should probably provide public notice. I think that's a terrific idea.
Mm-hmm. So
Jamie, did you have a comment?
I did. I just wanted to, it's more of a comment, just confirmation. This is very similar to the same type of rule that we would have for, let's say, a concession stand through the, like a youth sports program where we require licensure and we require them to have a background check. We're not asking for something extra for an ice cream truck vendor than what we would for someone working with youth in a stationary location.
Yeah, so you and I talked offline about that. So the onus would be on the Little League, the entity itself. We don't, as a city, oversee that. But if you were to volunteer, let's say for the school district, park district, one of the youth organizations, it would be incumbent upon that organization to do the background because once again, there's that contact with kids and children, and those volunteers and coaches and whatnot are vetted. So it's similar, but the city doesn't oversee that process.
Right.
Go ahead, David.
I was just going to echo what Paul and Ron were saying too. I would support that. But then procedurally, would we need to amend or just instruct the department to look into that? I'm not quite sure.
I think at this point, you're at the committee level for recommendation.
Okay.
If you want to advance it out of committee with a recommendation, you come back to the council.
With the
By then,
amendment?
we have language worked out. Hopefully that would address the concerns raised by some guys.
I mean, if we're done discussing, I'll move to approve with that.
So have Chief provide some kind of or mechanism to...
Yeah, like a medallion or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll collapse that in the ordinance, and then we'll bring that forward to city council.
Great.
It'd be like a visible license
Yeah,
on the truck.
a placard of some sort, a sticker,
Yeah.
we'll come up with something.
I'll second.
Okay. Anyone object to that? No? No. All righty. I don't think I need to take a vote on it. You just need to know that's what we want, right?
Yeah, to Mr. Pepper's point, I'll bring it back to city council with the amended change in the
I think we have to
ordinance.
vote to move it
To
on.
amend the
right,
ordinance
yeah.
that,
To include some sticker that recognizes they've been licensed by the city.
so we have a motion by
Right, with the amendment.
David, seconded by Lencioni. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, the ayes have it. That carries. Thank you very much, Chief. Next up, we have Derek Conley for Economic Development. Go ahead, Derek.
All right, I do just have a quick presentation here. So this is a resolution authorizing the professional services agreement with Solomon Caldwell Benz for a downtown riverfront property feasibility study. So just more directly, this is for a feasibility study for our old police department site, which is about 2 acres directly behind me along the river. Of course, there was a lot of discussion last year about potential ideas for redevelopment of this property. Back in the fall, City Council kind of gave staff the indication to do an RFP to just hire a consultant to do just a feasibility study. And that's simply what this is. So we issued a feasibility study late in the fall season. We did get one response back from the company Solomon Caldwell Benz. City staff did review what they had submitted to the city. We also interviewed them a couple times, and here we are tonight recommending approval of the services agreement. A little bit about Solomon Caldwell Benz. So operating since 1931, they're a nationwide company. They've got offices all over the United States, including Chicago. That is the office that we would be working with, so they're not coming from very far away. Simply put, this is an urban planning group. So they do urban use planning, comprehensive planning, downtown revitalization, construction administration, and sustainability studies, and much, much more. But simply they do planning, and they're a company that does a lot of planning for sites like this or entire downtowns or cities. Many similar properties or projects that they've worked on were included in the submittal that it was in the packet. Just pulling out a few that I think are relevant is in Kenosha, Aurora, Michigan City, Hillside, and Duluth. 4 of the 5 of these are next to a body of water, especially Aurora, of course, just down the river from the Fox River. So some of these studies do encompass more area and some are less area. Some of them are for entire downtown. Some of them actually look just at one site. On the right-hand side of the screen, we do have the project team that we'd be working with. So you have the 3 from SCB that are on there. Those are all staff members that worked on these projects that you see up here. And it's important to note that they would be doing subcontracting. So we'll go into the scope of services here a little bit, but this is a planning firm, and what we're asking for is very technical. So they did bring on some consultants to do some of that technical work, which is V3 Companies, TCS, and then Alpine Demolition Services. We don't have any direct experience working with SCB, but we do have experience working with the 3 subconsultants. Our Public Works Department and our Building Department have worked with these companies, have indicated that we have a very good relationship with them, very professional groups that are very capable of doing the job. Moving on to the scope of services. So again, this is all technical. So utility analysis, floodplain assessment, environmental site assessment, land use and traffic impact study, planning analysis, geotechnical analysis, demolition cost estimate, adaptive reuse assessment. This is something that was actually added from our discussion back in the fall. This is simply looking at the building saying, can a portion of this building be reused or is it too far gone? And one important note I did want to make is that this is basically just a technical analysis. We're not looking for public input at this time. This doesn't mean that we're not going to have some in the future whenever we decide to do whatever we're going to do with the site. But really, we're just collecting data, that technical information, so that we can then move on to the next phase and know what's possible. The last part that the planning firm is going to be doing is what's called a test fit planning strategies and findings. This is basically where they're going to come in. They're going to take all these analyses that have been put on, and they're going to put them together and see how they fit and kind of give their recommendation. It's important to note that they're not going to come in and say, oh, the best use for this property is, 3-story residential, first-floor commercial. They're not going to come up with that. They're basically going to come up with, hey, these are the parameters that you need to work in. You can't have something too big because there would be too much traffic, or, you really have to deal with this environmental. You can't do underground parking because the geotechnical analysis says that it's too dense down there and be too expensive to remove. Those are the things that they're going to be really looking at. They're not going to come in and propose any type of development. Really just give us those parameters. The total fee that they would be charging is about $118,000, and the timeline would be about 5 months. They're projecting 4 months, but I think it's more realistic 4 or 5 months. And with that, I can take any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks for your presentation, Derek. So this appears to be everything that we discussed a few months ago. On the adaptive reuse high-level assessment, I was reading through the papers, and it mentioned that Alpine Demolition is going to be the firm to do that work. Are they going to have a structural engineer or an architect? I mean, how are they going to assess the buildings themselves?
Yeah, there will be an engineer involved because that is the same group that's actually going to give us the demolition costs.
Right.
So they're going to go through that.
So there will,
kind of just an add-on to that.
Okay. And then the other question I have is the traffic and parking analysis. Are they going to utilize Desmond Parking Consultants' results and then do their own parking analysis, or are they just going to take their findings and use them, kind of craft them towards whatever?
They're going to take the counts that they did, and they're going to kind of rely on them and kind of discuss, what type of developments could go there and if you're going to need more parking to accommodate. And maybe some ideas for, hey, if you are going to add parking, this is the best area to do it,
That's
things
the
like
case.
that.
And then, traffic impact, I was reading through the packet, and it was challenging for me to understand how do you come to a traffic impact? Like you have to know what the land use is in a way. I know you mentioned they may say you can do this or that or whatever, but without the specifics. So can you talk a little bit more about that, the traffic impact in the land use?
Yes, so we'd be expecting them to do counts, and in today's age, you basically put cameras out there and you can count how many cars go by, what type of cars, and even bikers and pedestrians. This is on a bike lane. So they'll basically do those counts, and then that will be good information for the future to say, look, if you have too big of a development, this intersection that's literally right out here can't handle it. Or you have to do modifications of some sort.
So it's current. They're going to do it based on what's currently in place right now.
What's currently in place, and then hopefully kind of give us an indication of...
Give some assumptions on if you did this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think also a piece that has come up before is just with the fire station being right there, is that something that would interfere if there's, too much traffic.
Okay. And then the floodplain, does that involve the county at all, or any other government entities with the floodplain?
No, they're going to look at the floodplain map basically, and the intent there is that it encumbers the property, and what is the best way to deal with that? If you remove what is there right now, then it's going to extend. How do you get rid of that? And before the question is asked, they do know about the dam and that conversation going on.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Go ahead, David.
Derek, especially with the geotechnical analysis and the environmental site assessment, do you foresee, again, the floodplain it does go into the parking lot, and obviously this area does include any closures, excavations? Are they going to do any borings or anything that could impact the trail or anything?
Yeah, they are going to do some soil borings, but that is not going to result in any type of closure.
Cool. Okay. It's the spring, summertime, and people are going to be walking out there, so just curious. Thanks.
Go ahead, Ryan. Ryan.
Thank you. Derek, are you surprised that SCB was the only respondent?
I am not, simply because the scope of services we're asking for is very broad. And we did actually ask, I want to say about 20 firms that actually clicked open the RFP, and we surveyed them afterwards and said, why did you open it and not actually submit? And it was a lot of firms that said, well, we want to do this part of it, but we don't have the capability of doing all of these things and putting it together. So it is unique. And then also another component of this is that some of these firms, if they're going to do all this work, they're expecting that the city is going to spend money also on them creating some type of design. Mm-hmm. And we're not letting them do that. And that's honestly where the planning firm is going to make a lot of their money. So that's kind of the reason that I'm happy that we got one, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Move for approval.
Second. Moved by Wirball, second by Petrilla. Roll call, please.
Sancioni?
Yes.
Gem?
Yes.
Petrilla?
Yes.
Wirball?
Yes.
Bessner?
Yes.
Bokaitis?
Yes.
Folk?
Yes.
Bungard?
Yes.
Munns? Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Next up, we have public comment. Anyone for public comment? Please, all you need to do is state your name.
Hi, I'm Paul McMahon. I live by Potawatomi, 3rd and Chestnut. I'm very happy with this. This sounds very good. The scope sounds good. Is this information on the St. Charlesville website? Is it available?
What I presented is on the website right now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, additional items from, I'm sorry, sir, go ahead.
Dean Bemis, I live in the Potawatomi Park area. I'm just curious, we've got this one company, and they're going to bring on 3 other companies to help expand the scope of what they want to accomplish. I'm just curious, the original company that's named in the minutes, what will they do and what will the other 3 do?
Sure. So the three sub-consultants, those are technical engineers. So they're going to be the ones that are going to go out and actually do the soil borings and create kind of a simple report on whatever it is, you know, the condition of the building, the geotechnical analysis. And it's really going to be the planning firm that is going to put all that together and do what they call test it. So they're going to basically kind of figure out, put all this different information together from these three consultants who aren't communicating and just kind of put it into one report and then kind of go a step further and kind of say, how do these things interact together?
Thank you, Derek. State your name.
My name is Art Lemke, Lemke, 3214 Blackhawk Trail. In the past, I have looked at some of these traffic studies, and we have one locally that does very good work, but generally the traffic study isn't just what's there today. And what's important about that is that the businesses that are there today and the business that we have in St. Charles will expand. So it's not just what you might add for 10 State Street, but what's in there today, what the current businesses are likely to add for parking and traffic, as well as what might happen to the 10 State Street. And that's me.
Thank you. Is there anyone online for public comment? No? Okay. Additional items from mayor, council, or staff. I know Derek was going to give us an update on Smithfield Foods. Go ahead.
Staff just wanted to give an update on the Smithfield Foods project. So as we know from last year, we did get quite a few complaints about the odor that comes from Smithfield Foods. This is because of an increase in production. Smithfield has taken some action to try to mitigate this. So last year they did include a diffuser system with their wastewater plant. So this is basically a spray that goes on the wastewater in the tank and hopefully kind of mitigates the smell. We do think that that did help, but that certainly didn't get rid of the smell completely. They are also learning to use that system. Hopefully this summer they use it a little bit better. However, they are taking it a step further. They have approved a multi-million-dollar project, which would essentially take the big tank of wastewater that emits the smell and put a lid on it. So they have approved the funding for it, and they have also engineered what that would look like and started construction on it. However, sorry, saying construction, I should say manufacturing of it. They haven't started putting it on yet. They have submitted the engineering plans to the city of St. Charles, and we are in review of that. Just to make this a little bit more complicated, it also does require the review of the Illinois EPA. So that just increases the length of review time. Everyone is moving as quickly as possible on this, including Smithfield. They want to put this thing on tomorrow. The city has hired a consultant that is skilled with reviewing these things, just so that we can hopefully get that review done sooner rather than later. But that being said, this is going to take a little bit of time. We usually get more complaints in the summer, so just want to let City Council know and the community know that we're working as fast as possible on this, and hopefully sometime this summer we'll have that on there and we'll all smell less.
Anything else up here? Go ahead, Mr. Folks.
Yeah, I know we haven't had an update in a little bit, but how is Pheasant Run progressing with finally coming down?
We are almost daily told that they are ready to tear it down, and then they keep running into some hiccups in terms of support for the crane, construction of the crane, but we are hopeful that any day now we're going to start seeing that tower come down. It will not be a big implosion all at once. It'll be piece by piece, so it will be slow once it starts moving, but hopefully it'll be done in the next 6 to 8 weeks as the original timeline we were given.
Have there been any issues with the car dealerships around them with debris or anything like that with the cleanup in general that you've been made aware of or anything? I just didn't know if that was affecting their business or cars driving through or anything.
Just by nature of it, yes, just because it's a little messy, but we are continuing to work with the receiver to correct any of those issues.
Okay, thank you.
Jamie, did you have a question?
I just wanted to ask if there are going to be more regular updates as things do progress with the permits and things like that for Smithfield. Just so we can keep.
Yeah, you know, the review process, we can't say how long that's going to take. It depends on the quality of the engineering that's done, but, you know, certainly we can give an indication of, you know, things look good. But again, we're also relying on the Illinois EPA too, so getting input from them could be difficult, but we'll do the best we can.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Derek, don't go far. So, maybe I missed it. Assuming EPA approval, when does that cap go on there? It's not going to be this season, it'll be next year, right?
You know, again, it's really hard to say because of the review process and that, but, you know, we're hoping this year, but, you know, not in the next 2 months probably after that, so.
Derek, do you know when it's actually going to be in the EPA's hands for review?
It may have actually already been sent to them. I'm not quite sure. It has. Peter says it has, so.
Okay. Maybe some of us can reach out to some of our higher up elected officials to encourage them looking into. Okay, thank you. All right, anything else up here for, okay, David, go ahead.
Just real quick, you know, some of us suspected up here on this body, there have been some concerns have arisen with parking over at our newly closed Walnut Avenue, and I understand and thank you, Chief, for your team to respond to those. We've talked, but I'm just curious, anything else going on over there that we should know about, or what other mitigations are we doing?
Everything that we see and we encounter, working on those mitigations, additional signage, making things clear and addressing those as soon as we see them. I know that the police department was out there this weekend, and we are monitoring it actively to make sure that it's being used with the intended direction of council.
Go ahead, Ryan. Thanks.
So to add to my colleague Alderman Petrola's comments, it appears that the on-street public parking was converted to on-street private parking behind the Arcata, and the agreement to me is being breached that we just approved, and I'll read it. It's number 8. Licensee acknowledges and agrees that the use of bus parking area is restricted solely to bus parking for trucks involved in unloading equipment or materials for the vehicles dropping off, picking up, or waiting for entertainers or events held at the Arcata Theater. No passenger vehicles shall be parked in the bus parking area longer than 3 hours. This is still going on, and I know it's very difficult for staff to dedicate more time and resources to enforcing this and overseeing it. So we got 6 more months of this, so what is the game plan if this continues?
So one clarification, I know that some people have complained saying that there's cars parked in the bus parking area, and we call it a bus parking area. Passenger vehicles are allowed if it is for the transportation of entertainers. I think it wasn't in that section, but in another section, any vehicle in that bus parking area is supposed to have a sign in it, which the city has provided. So if there's not something in that window, then they are supposed to get a ticket. So I won't say beyond that, but I do know that we've had conversations with the PD, and anything that's outside of the license agreement should be issued a ticket.
And then what about the vehicles parking in the middle of Walnut Avenue, you know, backed up? I mean, one of them, there's a no parking sign, and they just park there like they own the street. And you know, and it's, obviously the police have other things to do, and so now this is more time and resources they have to spend on it. Residents are over there looking at it like what's going on. Other businesses are asking questions, and David and I are the ones getting all the phone calls. So what if this continues for 2, 3, 4 months? Do we just kind of put up with it and let them control the situation, or are we going to control the situation?
Well, I know that there have been some vehicles that have parked there. We've talked to PD about issuing tickets, and hopefully that will mitigate it, because no one wants to pay, you know, for those tickets. So hopefully this is something that we don't see continue on, but if it is, then we'll have to brainstorm on different, ideas.
Okay, thank you.
So go ahead, Ryan. For clarification, we were made aware that the first particular weekend there were some issues, but are you saying that that's ongoing? Mm-hmm. That every single weekend or, every night we're running the same problems, or are we referencing that first?
No, there's additional photographs, emails, phone calls that we're dealing with down here. So it's getting old real quick, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Thank you, Derek. We have no need for an executive session tonight. With that, I would ask for a motion second to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Lencioni, seconded by Gem. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, the ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Hey, Derek?